Well, hey everybody. What we're going to do today is a kind of a follow-up on the draw knife sharpener. So the reason why I was sharpening it was, as I mentioned, I have a project that I want to take care of, and that's my handle for my bush hook. So this red blade is called a bush hook, and even the untrained eye can see that I have a broken handle. I've been trying to find a handle for this. The ones that say they're for bush hooks are not for this kind of bush hook with a round socket. So I figured it would be kind of a fun project to make my own. So I had a hickory tree out at the woods. This is a chunk of hickory. I didn't measure it. Just kind of guessed it was long enough. Cut it off. And what I'll do is take this piece of hickory, and over the course of time make a bush hook handle out of it. So I have a long way to go, but unlike the Bandit, I have a long time to get there. The goal would be to be able to use this year yet. So another piece of equipment I found to help me along in this process was actually from my wife's grandpa, this board in this pipe vise. Now the challenge of that will be that the pipe vise still has to find it, fairly smaller diameter than it is right now. But what that'll let me do is I'll secure this pipe vise to probably to my table saw, and then I'll fix a piece of wood in there, close it down, tighten it up, and that'll let me draw against the workpiece. So what I'll do is now I might have to start it with it secured in another way till I can get it into such a diameter as it would want to fit inside this pipe vise. Okay, so here's what I came up with. It's as a temporary way to secure the hickory log. So I just screwed in a piece of scrap 2x, and then what that'll let me do, you can see where I started scraping off, so I can clamp this down to the saw and then pull, get this end small enough to fit into the pipe clamp. Then I can unscrew this part, flip it around, put the shaved end to the pipe clamp, and then start shaving down the whole length of the log piece. So here it's secured. I've tested it out and just working on my technique. It's not wonderful to have it dogged in like this. Once I get onto the clamp, it'll be a lot better, but this will let me work with the tool two-handed, and I'm just learning how to use it, trying to get better at using it. So as I go, I'll probably watch some videos of how to properly use this tool, and I know when I do go too deep I drag the table saw with me, but nothing I can do about that for now. So we'll just keep working until we get it down to size we can put it in the vise. Okay, after a few minutes of work, I was able to get the end of the log into the pipe vise. My wife's grandpa secured the vise to this 2x6, and I've used it a few times over the years for different things, mostly for pipe, first time for wood. But what I did there is I was, when I had it on the temporary hold down on my table saw is on wheels because my shop is very small, and so it was, as I was pulling the knife, it was pulling the work. So I knew I didn't want that long term. Here I've got my kind of my storage bench, my catch-all bench, and I used a couple, well, you can't see them that well, a couple of the bar clamps for regular wood, and I've got it clamped down to the bench, and we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna do a couple pulls here, still learning how to use a tool, really. But you can see that it is holding pretty good here as I'm pulling the bark off right now. Bark off in maybe the cambrium layer. I'm not a wood guy. Well, I'm a wood guy, but I'm not like that wood guy. So I don't know all the names, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just keep taking this down. Right now it's probably diameter 1.5 pop cans. So where's that piece? So this here, there's no rule that says I have to get it down to this finished diameter, but I do have to get it down. This looks to be about 1.25 inches or so. So I got a long way to go, but I'm just going to keep working at it. It's dark out here at the house anyway, so not a whole lot else going on. Okay, so got the one side done. I'm just finishing up on the second side, and thought it was cool to watch this stuff come right off. So what we're left with now is a blank piece of hickory, and we've got all the outer bark off and a little bit of the inner bark. And if this is going to go like it's gone in my head, I just keep on whittling it down. Still not quite to a pop can diameter even without the bark on, but keep moving. So we're getting close on the handle end. I want it to be a little bit closer. If you can see here, my fingertips don't quite meet the meat of my palm, and I want to be a little bit smaller in diameter than that. As we work our way up to what will be the head end of the tool, it's still a little thick. Fingers don't quite reach around it. Not that big. The tool socket here is fairly small, so I've got a lot of trimming to work on as I get down towards the head end of the tool. Right now I'm just kind of shaping the handheld area and slowly bringing this down to diameter. So I'm going to kind of give you an intermediate look at where we were so far. So this part I want to show you here, that's the thin end that I'll be the handle end, and somewhere down here will be the head of the tool. So I've got that close enough. All that's left is a little bit of fine tuning, and so I flipped it around, and now instead of the tool end being clamped in the vise, I've got the handle end clamped in the vise, so I can take some more of this material off. Okay, so we've got it down to the point where we're ready to start fitting. So I took the old handle and I traced the diameter of the handle onto the blank, and just been kind of sneaking up on it, working up to it. For those of you that don't know what a bush hook is, also called a ditch blade, a bank blade, bush hook. I think they're all three pretty synonymous with one another, but this is a hairy looking critter. It's a brush hog for your hands. For those of us that don't have a tractor, bush hook will do, and it can cut through some pretty stout brush too. It depends on how sharp you get it, and I try to keep it pretty sharp. So you see, that's why I'm wearing the gloves here. Anyway, I've got it about halfway up the socket, and if you can see here, there are two holes that have screws, carriage bolts, and nuts that go through. So a little bit more fine tuning to get to get the blade onto the handle, and then some fine tuning of the handle yet as well. I don't know if I use a draw knife for that, because it I don't want to go too far. Right now I kind of like where I've got it, roughly. So we'll just keep working on fitting this, and once we have this fit, we'll probably try to clean up some of the rough edges and make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. But anyhow, well, there among the rubble is the finished bush hook. So the handle is a little bit longer than the original one, but I'm on the upper end of 6 foot. So for me, anyway, this I typically will chop with the hook out. Now you can chop with the hook back, it just all depends, but especially if you're getting into brush and stuff, chopping the hook up. So for me, this is very comfortable, where the old handle that broke, that this one's replacing, was shorter, is probably a foot shorter than the one we have today. So that'll let me be a little bit more comfortable as I'm chopping, because you might think you're tough until you start swinging this critter, and then this is a separator. I left the socket a little bit bigger, so I really had to get after it to get it in, and you might see how large this gap is. I left it that way because this is green hickory, and as time goes by, I'll very likely need to tighten up these nuts inside these carriage bolts here. So other than that, there's probably a little bit of stuff I could do functionally complete. So share with you real quick some things I learned about a draw knife, since that was the first time I'd used one. First, of course, sharp is good, sharper's better. But then the other one was, make sure you use your body, not your arms. If you just pull it in with your arms, you're going to wear your arms out. If you pull back with your body, that'll work better for you. Another thing I learned is, this is not even all the shavings. So yeah, this pile of chips is not even, that's probably about half of it. So next time, if I was to do this again, I would pick a smaller diameter piece of wood to start with, or in this case that would have been a bad idea, because this tree grew taller, the branches came off a lot more frequently. There are some knots in here, but this was pretty clear overall. But what I would do different is I would probably do a lot of the hogging off with the splitting axe, instead of peeling it with the draw knife. I would have taken the big chunks off with the axe and then work on the draw knife as I got down. But overall, very fun project for me. Like to learn new things. So hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it useful.